Syracuse is a completely different team from last year. After a 6-0 start, the Orange looked like they may continue their miracle season while holding a lead over Clemson in the fourth quarter. But ultimately, things have fallen down to earth for 'Cuse. They've been decimated with injuries on the defensive line and have lost the services of all ACC caliber players in quarterback Garrett Shrader and cornerback Garrett Williams. But let's take a second to talk about what created this turnaround in the first place. In my opinion, this offensive renaissance starts and stops with offensive coordinator Robert Anae, who found his way to Syracuse after serving as Bronco Mendenhall's offensive coordinator at Virginia. When he's been the coordinator of both Shrader and Brennan Armstrong over the past 2 years, they've posted an average passing efficiency of 157, which usually means they're one of the more efficient quarterbacks in the country. Without him at offensive coordinator, those same quarterbacks have floundered, averaging a passing efficiency of 112.5. which tends towards the bottom of college football. So how has he accomplished this turnaround at Syracuse? First, let's look at Shrader's skill set. He's a big guy with speed, so Anae uses him pretty often in the run game on these read options and quarterback draws. When this running ability is paired with Sean Tucker, who may be the best running back in the ACC, it means that the defense has to respect the running game. This opens things up for Shrader, who is more than a capable passer. However, he does have a tendency to understride a bit and let the occasional ball sail on him. But Anae does a good job of letting Shrader operate in his comfort zone. They especially like going to the slant play to get Shrader in a rhythm. Although Notre Dame noticed that they often run this the first play of the game, which allowed them to get an easy pick. But what's neat about how Syracuse runs their passing game is that almost every route you see converts based on coverage. On this slant play, if they see the defenders trailing them in man, they'll continue across the field and attempt to run past him. But if the defense is in zone, they'll find a space to settle between the zones for an easy completion. This extends to the intermediate passing game as well, and no one throws more intermediate passes than Syracuse. They're the #1 team in the country in passing attempts between 10 and 20 yards, and almost all of those attempts go to their best receiver, Oronde Gadsden. Their go-to concept here is slot choice, where this slot receiver has options depending on the defense's coverage. In this situation, the defense is playing man with only one deep safety, so Gadsden is going to use all of this space to run a fade away from the safety for an easy one-on-one completion. This time when they call slot choice, Clemson is sitting in zone, specifically cover 2 on this side of the field, which means there's one deep safety and one corner playing the flats. That means Gadsden is going to settle his fade down in this corner pocket between the two defenders. A couple plays later, Clemson mixes things up and goes to cover 4. Since there's now a defender taking away that fade, the receiver instead bends it back inside underneath the dropping defenders. These converting routes are great when you have a quarterback and wide receiver on the same page like Shrader and Gadsden have been, but it makes things tougher when the backup has to step in. Unfortunately for the Orange, this scenario happened when Shrader went down with an injury a couple weeks ago. Replacement Carlos Del Rio Wilson has his own inaccuracy issues, and that allowed Pitt to shut down Syracuse offense when combined with the lack of chemistry he has with his receivers. If he were able to take the field against the Noles, I would expect him to get his legs a little bit more involved in the running game. Now let's talk about the defense. Syracuse has 2 big things going for them on that side of the ball. 1, they're fast, and 2, they're disciplined. They don't tend to miss open field tackles, and they do a good job of swarming to the ball. Syracuse runs a lot of cover 4. This gives 4 deep defenders and means their linebackers have to cover a decent amount of space, which this guy does well here. Since cover 4 lives with 2 deep safeties by definition, it means that those safeties have to be kind of aggressive in run fits in order to have enough men to consistently stop the run. That means if the offense can pull up the safeties with something like play action, they can isolate the corners in one-on-one matchups. This is inherently the biggest weakness of cover 4, but this strategy goes into the teeth of Syracuse's best defensive asset, their corners. Even with injury to potential early round corner Garrett Williams, Syracuse has been pretty stout on the back end, and to be honest, I don't think it's where FSU should be attacking anyways. Syracuse's desire for speed on defense means that they had to sacrifice size on the defensive line. This allows them to stunt and penetrate gaps, but it also means they can be pushed around a bit, especially since they're dealing with a few injuries there as well. This weakness came to an almost comical head when they faced Notre Dame, who for play after play for a whole 60 minutes just lined up with multiple tight ends on the field and ran inside run plays in duo and inside zone down Syracuse's throat. I expect FSU to do largely the same. FSU wants to run the football, and while they haven't run a ton of inside zone, it may be something to watch out for if Syracuse is able to use their speed to shut down FSU's traditional outside zone and counter-heavy offense. Syracuse is a really good football team, who's had really bad injury luck and a really tough stretch of the season. When healthy, I genuinely believe they're a top 15 team. But without Shrader, Williams, and basically their entire defensive line, they looked a bit like a shell of their former selves against Pitt. If Shrader doesn't suit up for Syracuse, then it would be hard to project a win for the Orange. But as long as number 6 is playing, it'll be hard to take one home from Syracuse. Thanks for watching. If you're a Syracuse fan, make sure to tell me how I did in the comments below. If you're a Florida State fan, make sure to like and subscribe and check out more great FSU news and information on Noles 247. Thanks.